Tak apa. Boleh kita sikit je.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastahdi wa nastaghfiruh wa natubu ilaih. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. Assalamualaikum kepada semua hadirin yang menyaksikan dan menerusi Facebook Live ILMI pada malam ini. Kita akan teruskan dengan resensi berkala kita, mengupas kali ini buku Muslim Societies in Postnormal Times, tulisan Ziauddin Sardar, Jordi, Serra, Delpino dan Scott Jordan. Bersama kita pada malam ini adalah saudari Ida Suhana daripada Institut Pemikiran dan Kepimpinan Siddiq Fadil UNISEL, akan mengupas, dan beliau juga merupakan salah seorang fellow Center for Postnormal Studies, Postnormal and Future Studies, CPPFS, yang berpengalaman di London. Okay. Jadi tanpa melengahkan masa, saya persilakan saudari Ida untuk mengupas satu karya yang sangat penting pada abad ini. Silakan.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Brother Hilman, with the not so much of agreement, I think, but this book is written in English, so mostly I will be doing the book review today in English. So this book is written in 2019, so it is about already past 4 years, almost 4 years, or we can say 3 years, because it is printed in Kuala Lumpur in 2020. And it is written by Professor Ziauddin Sardar, Mr. Jordi, Serra, and also Mr. Scott Jordan. And this is actually a collaboration and a collaborated effort between IIIT, International Institute of Islamic Thoughts, and CPPFS, the Center for Postnormal Policy and Future Studies. So we are actually having a workshop today and tomorrow on the introduction of future studies, and the author himself, Professor Sardar, mentioned during our workshop just now that this book to a certain extent has been outdated because it was written in 2019, printed in 2020, and now we are reaching the second half of 2023, and some of the information here are actually, not to say not valid, but it is outdated. Yeah, but nevertheless, I think for those who are not very much, those who are not very much an avid reader and does not really follow what's going on with the Muslim world these days, this book would be a good eye-opener for us to understand the trends, the issues, and the scenarios of the Muslim world now. Okay, there is an argument here. Okay, the study in this book is specifically focused on the Muslim society, or they are addressed as either Muslim society or Muslim community. Okay, there are some issues with the word ummah or Muslim world according to the discussion in this book. So therefore, to cut the story short, we are going to refer to the Muslim as Muslim societies in this book. Yeah, and this book is also a very strong imperative studies for the Muslim, for us to reflect on what has happened, the present situation, and how do we actually could, to a certain extent, develop our own future. Yeah, of course we have the issues of destination and predestination in Islam, so that's why I was using the word to a certain extent, that we are able to develop, to project, and to structure our own future. Okay, so to have the future that we want, Yeah, we have to be in control of our foresight and our planning, and in order to do that, we have to understand what is going on now and what has happened to a certain extent in the past. Yeah? Okay, we are talking about postnormal times now. We are living in the era of postnormal, or what, this is also mentioned in script or Madani by our Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, and postnormal times are actually referring to the times in which everything is so uncertain. We have left behind the traditional history, but we have yet to reach into one new era that we are certain of. Yeah? So that is postnormal times. So in postnormal times, moral and ethical and religion concerns are very crucial. Here we can see almost every advance in science and technology. They have second and third order side effects with the issue of safety and profound ethical consequences. So this is what we were doing this afternoon in the workshop, where we discussed the emerging issues, and then the first order, the second order, and the third order of impact of what we might get from the emerging issues. Yeah. And these are the side effects, and most of these side effects are really very much related to the issue of safety and profound ethical consequences. I think at this point, the discussion of ethics, the discussion of values and virtues are something very dominant in our society now, as we have reached the age in which, to a certain extent, we could not draw the line between what is right and what is wrong. Yeah? And to a certain extent, we see people using religion as the rational or reason for accepting something that is wrong as right, and saying that something is right is actually wrong. So the different lines to that sometimes can be very blurry. Okay, so in this postnormal times world, Muslim society, or we as Muslims, have to take action on our own future. The pluralistic, in which, the futures have to be pluralistic, open, and also, what is the word? Inclusive, yes. We involve everyone, yeah, because our futures are also the futures of others, but to a certain extent, our futures, it is we ourselves that decide, yeah. And this is, excuse me, this is how we can actually guide the rest of the society with a viable sense of direction. Yeah. Okay. So this book actually is divided into three major parts. First is about trends, and then it's about emerging issues, and the third part is the scenario. But what I'm going to be doing today is only to look into the trends, and there are 19 trends together pertaining to the Muslim society that are mentioned in this book. Yeah, from population, youth, environmental issues, pollution, we have education, we have even gender inequality, we have even uncertainty and ignorance, as well as anxiety and weirdness. Okay, so out of these 19, I will be looking into some parts, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10 parts of 10 subtopics, in which I feel it is quite important for us to look into. Okay. Okay. The 10 topics are population and youth, environment and livability, pollution and endangered cities, migration and refugees, economy and energy, science and technology, and I go down straight to social media and artificial intelligence, Islam and uncertainty and ignorance, anxiety and weirdness. In as much as anxiety is the last topic here, I think in the year 2023, anxiety, mental health, depression, mental issues are something that is very significant, and if we do not do something about it, it might create few emerging issues that would lead us to some challenges, I would say, instead of using the word trouble or problems, to some challenges in future. Especially, I think this is not only relevant to the Muslims in Malaysia, but also the Muslim societies in general. Okay, the first one. Okay, let us look first. What is trend? What's the definition of trend? And how can we actually, not so much how can we actually identify, but let's look at the definition. Yeah? So, trends actually form the core of futures research, and usually trends deal with figures, either quantitative or qualitative figures. But usually when we have research, social science, we can have qualitative, but when it comes to other types, we might want to rely on data, and that makes it quantitative. Yeah. So trend is actually a measure of change. It's something that has perceivably shifted, something that shifted maybe from the good to the bad, or to the bad to the good. Okay, and it is over a given period of time within a particular context. So a current example of trend is a great deal of attention on the trend of aging societies. Okay, at least in this context where this is an issue, such as Europe and East Asia. However, in contradict to that, there are certain countries in the world, such as Pakistan, which is facing a youth bulge. Okay, Pakistan alone currently has 60 million people. Bulge is something that is something big that has gone bigger, something that is swelling. So that means it doesn't stop. It's getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so and Pakistan alone currently has 60 million people under the age of 18. So this is something that I think, if it is not dealt with properly, there'll be discrimination, there'll be unfair treatment.
You mean we should control the population?
Not that we should control the population. We don't have to control the population, but as the population grows, there are certain steps that needs to be taken,
right,
in order to give everyone fair treatment.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, we should not control population. Even in Islam, I think we don't really believe in birth.
Does aging population an issue?
Aging population is an issue to the countries in Europe.
Yes, I mean, is it an issue?
Is it an issue also if we do not know how to deal with it properly? Okay, for example, let's say now, I think to a certain extent, if we don't really plan properly, even in Malaysia, we are going to have old people that are not well taken care of.
Right.
So how do we deal with it? Of course, people are going to say rumah orang tua is like a taboo, but to a certain extent, I think the government will have to look into this properly, and we have to exchange the mentality of the people. Okay, some might have to go into, yeah.
Government also address Malaysia as an aging country in a few years, and also there is a lot of investment done for the palliative treatment.
Palliative treatment, right? That's what we call. So, but it's good to know that. But I think we really have to also, to a certain extent, educate our society and tell them it is actually not taboo if you could provide a better care for your parents. But still, it is taboo actually when you talk about taking care of our parents, and we can't take care of them to actually get someone else to take care of them is better. But still, Okay, so that is trend. So thinking and exploring futures begins with exploring and analyzing trends. And the trends that are mentioned in this book is actually these 19 trends are very much related to the Muslim societies. So let's look at the first one on population and youth. So I think to a certain extent we have a disproportionate weightage of population and the youth and the old people. Yeah, some countries they have too many youth, like Pakistan just now. Some countries are facing like the old age country, and I think in this sense, besides educating the people, the government should be also proactive in taking steps on how to deal with the situation. Old age requires different actions taken. Dealing with youth, the swelling, the bulging of the number of youth also takes a different kind of actions or effort by the government. Okay, so there are two implications on the population and youth that I would like to mention here based on the book. Yeah. The first one, many Muslim countries will experience increasing difficulties to sustain a rapidly growing population. So we are not controlling. We are growing, and we are growing rapidly. How fast? I think just now one of the participants of the workshop actually mentioned in the data that was given, we have 7 billion, but he said yesterday, even TV3 mentioned the world population now has reached 8 billion. So within that, I think 6 years span, okay, we go from 7 billion to 8 billion. And that is very rapid, that is very quick. And the competition for education, employment and living could provide a potential boom to the economy, but only if the proper infrastructure is in place and more appetizing opportunities do not lie abroad. Okay, so this is where proactive actions should be taken not only by the government but by the society, but even to a certain extent by an individual to deal with this situation. Because I think even if we want to educate, the effort can be made in mass education, but at the end of the day, it's an individual that makes up to the society, makes up to the mass. So it starts with the effort of one person. Okay, the next trend that I would like to look into is on environment and livability. We are already reaching climate emergency now. It's no longer climate issues, no longer climate crisis, but we are dealing with a climate emergency, which leads to quite a number of impact on other parts of our lives as well, in which we also have climate refugees. And unfortunately, these climate refugees, most of them are involving the people from Muslim nation. Yeah. So for environment and livability, this book mentioned that basic resource availability, food and water, will become a major concern for many Muslim countries. And the scarcity of these resources will inevitably lead to growing tensions and conflict at both intra and interstate levels. Obviously, we almost had an emergency on the supply of eggs. at the end of last year, right, to a certain extent. But luckily we have a very productive minister who dealt with the problem. So that is just basic eggs. Everyone eat eggs. Have we ever, yes, egg. Okay. Have we ever thought, has it ever occurred to us that we're going to have issues with the supply of egg? And that, one day that we had to import egg. So that is one thing, basic resources, food and water. And considering that, a part of it almost happened to our country, our own country. So, and we are actually a developing country. So, what happened to the underdeveloped country? And most of the underdeveloped country are, unfortunately, again, Muslim countries. Okay, next is on pollution and endangered cities. Again, Muslim cities face serious threat from temperature rises, coastal flooding, and urban growth, and are in danger of becoming uninhabitable, in which it is also suggested that steps can be taken to combat carbon emissions through an adoption of alternative sources of energy, such as solar or wind. And this may initially threaten the strong oil economics, but questions of wealth now or down the road need to be considered. Oil is also a non-renewable resource. So, like human livability, all resources has its limits. So, it is on pollution and endangered cities. So, there is a map in the book that shows the condition of dry and wet, of the world. And so, the map actually, varies. We have, I think the Europe is not is on a good condition, but if you look at the dry part, the African countries, and also some parts of the, what do you call this?
South Africa.
South Africa.
Madagascar.
Okay. So, okay. And
you want to mention this part?
Yes, okay. And also, these are the list of dangerously polluted Muslim city. The first one is Zabul, Iran, and then in which the PM,
What's that?
not sure. Pollution, hold on, table one. Particulate matter. Okay. So the particulate matter of, I think it's the square feet.
No, micrometers.
PM, okay, micrometers or smaller. So, starts with Zabul, Iran, Peshawar, Pakistan. Oh no, this is not according to the the number 1 to 10, but these are among the highest. Okay, we have 2 towns from Pakistan, Peshawar and Karachi. We have 3 towns, major town in Saudi, Riyadh, Jubail and Dammam, and 1 from Nigeria, 1 from Iran, which is Zabul, and 1 from Bahrain. And of course, we have 2 towns in Afghanistan, Mazar-i-Sharif and Kabul. So, but if we look at the polluted Muslim cities, we have the Afghanistan is because, could it be because of the war?
Just to be clear, that the list does not mean that only
this,
Muslim
yes, only
cities are polluted, but these are polluted cities among Muslim nations.
Among Muslim nations.
Yeah.
Okay, polluted cities among Muslim cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not only this, China, I think. So.
Okay, yeah. So, and also we have, okay, the book gave most populated Muslim cities, okay, in 2016 and forecast in 2030, okay. The highest is actually Cairo, Egypt. In 2016, the population is 19.1 million. In 2030, it is forecasted to be 24.5 million.
The population?
Yes, the population. Okay, and then we have the second highest, Dhaka, Bangladesh. 2016 is 18 millions, and it is forecasted to be 27,000.4 millions people.
27.4 million.
27.4 million people in
Which
Dhaka alone.
Cairo.
Yes, okay, and it's going to surpass Cairo. And then we have, next we have Karachi, Pakistan. In 2016, there are 17.1 million people, and it is forecasted to be 24.8 million people in 2030. Okay, so the list goes on. The next one is Istanbul, Turkey, and then we have Lagos, Nigeria, and then after that goes to Jakarta, Indonesia, and Lahore, Pakistan. And to think that Jakarta has had 10.5 million populations in 2016 and is forecasted to have 13.8 millions in 2030, and they are also sinking. So it doesn't look good, doesn't look that good. Yeah. So okay, so these are among the data on the pollution and also the population. Next, I would like to look into the trends into migration and refugees, in which just now we were talking about climate refugees and people migrating from the Muslim country because of the crisis, the war that are going on in their own country. So the refugee crisis is a major turning point for Muslim societies, as generations tend to be born into camps or displaced lands beyond that of their parents. And also another very important point is climate refugees, Muslims escaping ecological catastrophe in their homelands, and these are set to emerge as a new trend. So I read somewhere that one of the driest place on earth happens to be in Pakistan. Driest. So driest means the temperature can be high and it's dry and it's not habitable, obviously. So, doctor, what happens when you live in a dry place?
Dry place, we can have a lot of medical issues also.
Doctor, we only think of medical issues. Okay. So, fortunately, or I don't know, maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately, Muslim population in Europe is set to increase. And I think this is also contributed by the fact that some of them are actually refugees flying away from their own country because of the war, because of the internal conflict, yeah, like how Germany is accepting many Muslim refugees, and because of this, they might be facing some kind of hostilities, discriminations, which will lead to a lot of other social issues that they have to deal with. Okay. So next is there are trends on politics and governance, education, which I think let's not look into. Let's look into something because that is important. But I think to a certain extent, what you want me to look into politics and governance. All right, politics and governance.
Yeah, talk about politics.
Okay, we have the Corruption Perception Index ranking for Muslim countries. Okay, and we have the score from 2012, 2013, and 2015. And the highest is UAE. And Malaysia is the third.
The highest is?
And Malaysia is the third.
Second one?
I mean,
Qatar.
the most corrupted must be number one, right?
Yes.
So I don't think the highest is United Arab Emirates.
This is perception, corruption perception index.
Yeah, so the first one would be Sudan.
At the back. But if you look at the first Sudan, Afghanistan, and Iraq, these are all countries in turmoil.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So one very important point mentioned in this book on politics and governance is Muslim countries have yet to develop political systems that effectively integrate the Islamic principles with the complexities of a stable governance. So that is very obvious, yeah. And corruption and lack of transparency are major obstacles to political reform in many countries. And if not remediated, will continue to foster instability. Here I could find a contradiction, or to a certain extent, it is an irony to find that corruption is actually one of the major obstacles to the political reform in Muslim countries. When we are Muslims by right, we should abide by the rules and avoid corruption as much as we could. Okay, let's move on then. We have the next one. I would like to look into economy and energy. Okay, there are quite a number of graphs given in this for this chapter, which includes Human Development Index and gross national income. And country number 30 is Brunei, which with very high human development. Okay, so that means
The highest Muslim country occupy rank number 30,
which is Brunei.
and Brunei.
Okay, so HDI, Human Development Index, is a composite index that considers three issues: life expectancy as an indicator of leading a healthy life, years of schooling as an indicator of education level, and gross national income per capita as an indicator of having a decent standard of living. So health, education, income, three things that is counted into Human Development Index. So we have very high Human Development Index among the country is Brunei, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait. So all of them are all producers countries, are they?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then high human development, Malaysia is in number 62. With Turkey, Libya, Oman, Lebanon, Kazakhstan, Iran, Jordan, even Bosnia. Okay, and we have other also the medium human development, and the low human development among the countries with low human development index is Pakistan, Nigeria, Senegal, Sudan, Afghanistan, Gambia, Ethiopia, and some of the countries that we're not familiar of. So again, we have Pakistan as a country with very high population, okay, and we have Sudan and Afghanistan in this list. We know that these are the countries with internal issues and war among the people. So among the other things that we need to pay attention on for economy and energy, the trends in economy and energy is very few Muslim countries are actively developing their own knowledge capital as a sustainable resource and less so as an export. So to support sustainable resource, to have enough resource to support their own country. Yeah, and most Muslim countries are over dependent on oil reserves to compensate for scarcity of basic resources. 5 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes more to go. So, and then, okay. So science and technology. There is a widening science and technology knowledge gap between Muslim countries and industrialized states, as well as between a handful of Muslim countries which produce scientific and technological outputs and the rest of Muslim states. Okay, you have number one, science and technology gap between Muslim countries and industrialized states. Okay, and number two, between a handful of Muslim countries which produce scientific and technological outputs and the rest of Muslim states. There are 4 things here. Yeah? Muslim countries versus industrialized states, and handful of Muslim countries which is productive in comparison to the rest of the Muslim countries. Yeah? And also we have to also pay attention to the low levels of research and development effort in most of the Muslim world. So therefore, it will be difficult for them to diversify their economic performance. Okay, next is.
I think this one is worth to be mentioned.
Okay, on the science and technology just now, only Malaysia devotes more than 1% of its GDP, 1.1 to be precise, to research and development. And only 4 countries allocate more than 0.5% of their GDP to research and development. These are Mali, Morocco, Tunisia, and Turkey. So the rest spend very low on their income to their research and development effort. 1% and 0.5% is actually very low already. And imagine when they don't even spend 0.5% from their GDP for research and development. Yeah. Okay, next I would like to look into social media and artificial intelligence. This is something big now. There were quite a number of development. I'm not sure whether good or bad. Some people are saying good on the development of artificial intelligence. There was a news recently, very recent, I think within last few days, about a robot telling UN that they are not doing their job properly, and robots will be able to do a better job than human in the United Nations. Yeah. So okay, points to be looking to on social media and artificial intelligence. With this new mode of social discourse, both Muslim populations and governments stand greater challenges in civil order and transparency. Attempts to control these platforms will result in increased chaos and overall regional instability. Because of this, we don't really have a choice but to be more transparent. Any attempt to control will result in increased chaos, and this is something what PNT is all about: the complexity, the speed, the scope, and then simultaneity, 3Cs and 4S. Okay, and Muslim. Okay, this is very important. I think until now we are still addressing these issues, and to a certain extent, some efforts have been made, but not much outcome we get from it. Muslim educational systems will need to be reformed to prepare for an AI and big data based economy. Not only economy, but I think also society. If this does not occur, the Muslim countries' workforce will be unable to compete in the global market. Even I think in Malaysia last month, they were forecasting in 2030 4.5 million will lose their job if their skills is not up to date enough.
The skills.
Yes. Okay. This is a challenge to the educational system, be it primary, secondary, or even the tertiary level, to update the syllabus, to update the content, and to a certain extent we might require a total reform, because when you change the content, you will have to change the objectives, the outcomes, and this is actually very much related to all other things outside the classroom, not only the inside of the classroom. Yeah, and of course, advancing AI and the rise of robots raises some deep moral and ethical issues that require urgent attention of Muslim scholars and thinkers. So I think when it comes to these are among the few trends that is worth looking at, besides the other 10 trends. Okay, there are 19 altogether. I think I mentioned about 9. And there are also the mention of emerging issues as well as scenario, which include the 3 tomorrows. And emerging issues actually include the postnormal menagerie, the Black Swan, the Black Swan, the Black Elephant, and the Black Jellyfish. And when you talk about the emerging issues, we have the 3 tomorrows, the extended present, the familiar futures, and the unthought futures. That one I will do it in the next part, inshallah. So until that's all for today. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can always comment, and I will get to that later. So thank you. Back to Brother Hilman.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Thank you very much, Sister Ida, for the sharing. Okay, so Kabiru Omar Inua, thank you. He said, Masya Allah. Masya Allah, Tabarakallah. Okay, so I have one question. These 19 trends, how do the authors categorize them, and what are the parameters that they take to consider this as a trend? Because you see, for example, economy and energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, frankly speaking, it should be 2 different trends, right?
Yes.
But why do it becomes one trend, and then how about other things which are not in this list? So, mind to share a bit about the background of these trends. Why were these 19 trends were chosen? Yeah.
That is a question that I've never asked the authors. But I think looking at it, these are very much something that is very much the core of a society.
Of a modern society.
Okay, of a modern society. And on top of that, it
modern
is
Muslim society.
Yes. So, and on top of that, to a certain extent, some of these trends, it is not only worth, but it is very, imperative that we do a deep dive into these things, so that we can have the latest data. Because I think some of the trend mentioned here also, which I did not mention in this recension, or have already becoming outdated. and some of them has become also, I think, some emerging issues that we might have to deal with. Yeah. So, but this is something that I didn't mention just now. Islamophobia is something that we really have to look into. Not only the international Islamophobia, but in the context of Malaysia, to a certain extent, if we don't really do something about what's going on now, we're going to have Islamophobia in our own country. Of other people of other religion getting phobia with the Muslims. I think maybe it's already happening. So, emerging issues, we do not know. So, thank you very much, Brother Hilman.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
Any
Assalamualaikum
question
warahmatullahi
from
Apa pandangan Eda mengenai sebab buku ni penulis dia 3 orang, seorang dia orang Islam kan, dan sejauh mana dia memahami betul tentang apa sebenarnya Islam concern. Sebab kadang-kadang orang Islam ni walaupun kita dalam list tu ada banyak hadis, tapi kadang orang Islam ni dia apa yang concern ni adalah asalkan semayang, asalkan puasa, boleh tak aku pergi haji atau umrah. Jadi macam mana benda tu?
Saya rasa nombor satu, trend ialah something yang kita analyse mengikut data. Kalau tengok dalam buku ni pun banyak data. Dan with all due respect, we have people of other religion analysing what's going on with the Muslim world. I think that is also a good perspective because these people are not biased. They are looking inside. They are, it's like kita ada satu kelas ni, dia orang duduk kat luar kelas tengok kita what's happening inside. So view tu mereka berbeza. Dan saya rasa when it comes to trends ni, dia tak, mungkin to certain extent dia tak ada pemahaman sebagaimana kita ada pemahaman. Tapi bila kita bercakap pasal trends, yang paling penting ialah data. So semua perkara yang disebut dalam buku ni di support ataupun di backup dengan data. Dan mostly saya rasa bukan data yang diorang buat sendiri, tapi mostly ada UN punya data. These are all the reliable numbers and figures that they have. I know the other 2 authors, they are very objective and professional in their analysis of what's going on. Even I think to certain extent, pemahaman mereka mengenai Islam tu melangkaui apa yang kita faham. Sebab mereka belajar dan mereka ambil tahu. Macam kita ni memang kita dah inherit Islam tu. Jadi pemahaman kita tu lain. Kan? Tu pendapat saya lah.
I agree. If I may add some to Shazwan's point. I don't think the issue is about biasness or they are not being objective, but rather a person who dwells in the society will understand the society better. So in this context, a Muslim who lives in a Muslim society will understand probably more or better than persons not live in that society. I mean, this is common sense. They will know the urge, the pressing matter, what are the concerns. So for example, when Shazwan said example about religious, right, religiosity, there is actually a trend here. I'm not sure number what, but it's under the chapter religion and culture, and it's mentioned there the consistency of ritual in doing Hajj, in doing prayer, and there are 2 statistics only one statistic being given. And I think this is where it lacks a bit, especially now. You see this growing religiosity becoming a new trend. People are willing to
use religion.
I mean, use religion. People are willing to borrow money, say to to make a big ceremony for a nikah. Okay, so yes, nikah is a religious and cultural element of society, but to borrow money, such a huge amount of money, to please the people is okay. So this is probably a growing trend of culture. Now, growing trend of religion, probably an increase in the building of mosque, an increase in the participation in congregation prayer, jamaah in masjid. So these are all can be collected. The data of this can be collected, so for us to see whether there is a growing trend of religiosity or not. So in a way, Shazwan has his own point.
Yes.
Which I think, if I can summarize, the lack of data and well, when you talking about Muslim society, right? Of course, you want more data and
Yes. This is
unless the authors mention in the introduction, of which I don't think it's mentioned, that they have consulted Muslim societies in respective Muslim countries regarding the pressing issues and concerns, and from there they try to search for data and statistics to see what is the trends going on.
I don't think that is being done, and all the data are taken from some. I think it is mentioned here in the sources all. But yes, you have a point when we are talking about the representation of something. It's like the voice of the people. The one representing is not Muslim. The one representing the Muslim is not Muslim. So yes, there is a contradiction there.
Another thing, satu lagi benda adalah Muslim society ni, kita dalam Muslim society dia ada non-Muslim, religious minority yang memang ada dia punya hak-hak dia dan dia sangat-sangat berbeza dengan secara umum minority, even minority Islam yang duduk di negara bukan Islam. Jadi adakah buku ini address non-Muslim dalam non-Muslim minority?
So we are defining the society, Muslim society as comprehensive, including the non-Muslim also.
No. I think it's only
That's
Muslim
for
society.
Muslim.
But like
I
Shazwan
think
said,
that's not entirely kita tak tunjuk, kita terbit picture sebenar lah kepada masyarakat Islam yang memang
sebab yang ni saya rasa dia lebih
ideologi
kepada Muslim society yang majority Muslim.
Majority Muslim.
Bukan minority kan.
Okay.
Kalau minority tu dia tak detail, dia tak ada data. So that actually
ataupun dia sebut tentang Muslim societies lah, bukan
in general
Muslim countries. Sebab ada sebut negara-negara majority Christian juga tadi, ada few in African countries yang turut masuk dalam ni, tapi mungkin merujuk pada Muslim societies di negara tu yang mungkin minority.
I heard a conversation. I was in a conversation dengan Prof. Aslam, Prof. Zia tadi. They were talking about Muslim intellects. Who do we have now after Nakib Alatas?
Sudah Suhana.
Okay.
I mean, we do have, but
but not as significant but impactful.
You can measure lah. Probably because we live in Malaysia and Syed Najib Alatas in Malaysia, therefore we are a bit biased. You see, this is very significant. But for other nations, they know, okay, Alatas is big, but not. Probably they don't see him as high respective figure as we are. Okay, but we do have Muslim intellectuals, and in Turkey, for example, they would regard somebody like Mustafa Akil to be a Muslim
In our
intellectual.
case, it's
And
like
for us,
in
we
Malaysia,
don't really regard Mustafa Akil as a Muslim intellectual. So we do have, but the respect and the
by definition lah.
Yeah.
Tapi if we talk about
High regard
Malay Muslim intellect,
Okay, Malay Muslim intellectual.
Kalau in Malaysia lah. In Malaysia I think it's very limited.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay,
we compare
whoever
to-
knows, please comment. You can
How does
comment.
post-normality challenge traditional approaches to understanding and managing the world? I think there is no challenge here. It's like traditional approaches are traditional approaches, but in this post-normal world, to use traditional approaches to understand and manage the world, it seems to be a bit outdated. We have to actually be updated, and I'm not limiting that we should rely on post-normal theory alone, but at least we don't delve or dwell into the traditional approach in managing or settling some challenges of the current world. That is my answer, Muhammad Shazani. Thank you.
Minority of numbers.
Okay. So you were discussing?
Ada contohnya indeks corruption.
Corruption index.
Jadi yang akan contribute pada contribution plus ada orang Islam ni. Orang Islam ni. Walaupun orang Islam majoriti di Malaysia. Tapi still orang Islam juga, orang Islam betul maksud saya, orang Islam juga terlibat dalam masyarakat Islam.
Ya.
Lagi the numbers tu lah. Even the minority numbers.
Betul.
I mean, it's a valid point.
Yes, it's a valid point. So
Suka
kita tak boleh nak orang kata draw a line. Saya sini Muslim, sini non Muslim, tak ada.
Even kalau pergi negara-negara Arab pun susah dia Kristian dan negara Arab Islam ni kadang hidup lagi dekat, kadang susah nak dibezakan mana Islam mana Kristian.
So I think that will be all for today. Thank you very much.
You want to comment?
All for today.
Awful today.
Mana ada full.
Awful question.
Awful question.
Okay. So if you have suggestions or ideas, comments, please continue. We will monitor. Shazwan will not sleep tonight. He will monitor the comment section.
Suggestion book for next.
Also, you can give suggestion books for our next book dissection. And please state in the comment section who is the Malay intellectuals you think exist in our time today.
Yes,
After
after Alatas.
Our Professor Syed Muhammad Najib Alatas, who will deliver his inaugural address for his latest book, Islam, the Covenants Fulfilled. It's a free promotion for the event.
But it's a paid event. Thank you very much, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Dengan setia.
Huh? Ada?
Oh, yes.